To Governor Doug Ducey, who's just doing a phenomenal job here in Arizona. Can we hear it for this great governor? Thank you for that great introduction. To Senator Martha McSally, to Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes, to several distinguished members of Congress, and all my fellow Americans from near and far, it is great to be back in the Grand Canyon State for the launch of Latter-day Saints for Trump. And all the families of Arizona's LDS community gathered here, and all of those that are looking on. We are honored by your support and grateful for your prayers. And we're honored to be here with so many champions of faith and family and freedom. Like that man I just mentioned, who's led Arizona to prosperity and led Arizona through these challenging times. Just join me in thanking Governor Doug Ducey one more time, will you? He is a truly remarkable leader. Or like a history-making combat veteran who's now defending freedom every day in the halls of the United States Senate, join me in thanking your current and future Senator, Senator Martha McSally. Or like a group of leaders who I can tell you firsthand have stood in the gap with our president and for conservative values every single day of this administration. Would you join me in thanking four amazing members of Congress, Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, Congressman David Schweikert, Congressman Paul Gosar, and Congressman Andy Biggs. You know, I served in the House of Representatives for 12 years before I went home to be governor of Indiana. It was 12 years, and I have to tell you, it seemed longer. But it is a remarkable thing when you see men and women who carry the very same principles that carried them to Washington, D.C. I have to tell you, those that are gathered here, Arizona should be proud of the principled conservative delegation that you've sent to Washington, D.C. They make a difference every day. They really do. It really is great to be with so many friends. And speaking of friends, allow me to bring greetings and gratitude from another friend of mine who loves the state of Arizona. And when I told him I was headed your way last night, I think he sounded just a little bit jealous. So allow me to bring greetings from a champion of life and liberty and the 45th President of the United States of America, President Donald Trump. You know, it really is great to be with all of you today, but I got to be honest with you. I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that is that Arizona and America need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. You know, 4 more years means more jobs. 4 more years means more judges. 4 more years means more support for our troops. And it's going to take at least 4 more years to drain that swamp. You know, I don't know if y'all heard the news, but on the way here, I just heard that Joe Biden named his running mate. California Senator Kamala Harris will be the Democrat candidate for Vice President. So let me take this opportunity to welcome her to the race. I mean, we all know, look, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party have been overtaken by the radical left, so given their promises of higher taxes, open borders, socialized medicine, and abortion on demand, it's no surprise that he chose Senator Harris to be his running mate. You all might like to know that the vice presidential debate is going to be held on October 7th in Utah. So my message to the Democrat candidate for vice president, congratulations. I'll see you in Salt Lake City. You know, I remember the day that I got the call to join this ticket. About 4 years ago this time. Karen and I had prayed all the way through it, and I said yes in a heartbeat. Because I knew then that Donald Trump had the vision, the leadership, and the strength to make America great again, and in 4 short years, that's just what we've done. I mean, from the first day of this administration, President Trump has been working to keep the promises that he made to the people of Arizona and people all across this country. Especially, this president has worked every day, I can attest, to keep the promises that he has made to people of faith. We've stood for the sanctity of life without apology. We've stood for religious liberty of every American of every faith. We've made the strongest military in the history of the world stronger still. We've rebuilt our military and restored the arsenal of democracy. You know, I have to tell you, as the proud father of a United States Marine who's stationed right here in Arizona, and as the proud father-in-law of a United States Navy pilot, I couldn't be more proud to be vice president to a president who has so supported the men and women of our armed forces. We're finally giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard the resources and the support they need to accomplish their mission and defend this nation. True. And this president has also appointed more conservatives to our Court of Appeals than any president in American history. In the midst of all of that, in our first 3 years, with the strong support of these conservatives in the Congress, we revived the American economy with less taxes, less regulation, more American energy, and the kind of trade deals that put American jobs and American workers first. It's amazing. In those first 3 years, this president kept all the promises that he made to the people of Arizona and then some. We cut those taxes across the board for working families and businesses large and small. In fact, this president signed more bills cutting federal red tape than any president in American history. And the USMCA is now the law of the land. It's a win for America and a win for Arizona. We unleashed American energy, and in the midst of all of that, in those first 3 years, American businesses created more than 7 million good-paying jobs. And then the coronavirus pandemic hit. And it's been a challenging time, especially over the last several months here in the state of Arizona. You know, early in this pandemic, the American people saw the leadership of President Trump shine forth. This president marshaled not only a whole of government response, but a whole of America response. We reinvented testing, and now America has done more testing for the coronavirus than any nation on earth. We arranged for the manufacture and delivery of hundreds of millions of medical supplies to all of the incredible healthcare workers in hospitals all across this country. We've been working around the clock since February of this year, developing medicines known as therapeutics at a record pace. And I'm proud to say that we are well on our way to having the first coronavirus vaccine before the end of this year. Now, we have a ways to go, and we all have a role to play to protect the vulnerable, to save lives, and I know the people of Arizona will continue to do that. There's not a day gone by since the president tapped me to lead the White House Coronavirus Task Force that I haven't thought of the families that have suffered loss. And today our hearts are with more than 160,000 American families that have lost loved ones. But our hearts are also filled with gratitude to the amazing first responders, the amazing doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers who have been nothing less than heroic all through this pandemic. And they have our thanks. Now, let me say to the people of Arizona, we're encouraged by the progress that you're making in the Grand Canyon State and the progress we're seeing all across the Sun Belt. Because of this President's leadership and all of our efforts, because of the strong leadership here in the state of Arizona in this challenging time, I continue to receive reports that cases are coming down in Arizona. Positive tests are coming down, and the economy is coming back. Thank you, Governor Doug Ducey, for your strong, steady, and compassionate leadership. And the economy is coming back. You know, it's amazing to think, after losing 22 million jobs at the height of this pandemic, because of the solid foundation that our president poured in those first 3 years of less government, less taxes, more free and fair trade, more American energy, the American comeback has begun. And from that 22 million loss, we've already added 9.3 million jobs back to the American economy, and we're just getting started. We're opening up America again. And we're opening up America's schools. I'll get you back. And I want to make you a promise, and the governor knows we mean it. As you in the Grand Canyon State and people all across the country continue to contend with this pandemic, we will not rest, we will not relent, we will spare no expense and no effort until Arizona and America put the coronavirus in the past and bring this state and nation back bigger and better than ever before. We'll do it. But to do that, we all need to continue to do our part to bring America all the way back. And to do that, we also need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing, but soon we will come to a time for choosing. And the choice in this election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. It's really why I'm here today. I want to talk about what's at stake. I want to talk about the choice our nation faces. I'm here to talk about faith in America and keeping faith with everything that's always made America good and great. To families here in Arizona, in the LDS community, make no mistake about it. Our economic recovery is on the ballot, but also there are things on the ballot more fundamental and more foundational to our country as well. You know, I think this coming election, the choice is not going to be whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, whether America will be more Democrat or more Republican, more red or blue. The choice in this election is whether America remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country that's grounded in our highest ideals of freedom, free markets, and the inalienable right to life and liberty, or whether we will leave to our children and grandchildren a country that's fundamentally transformed into something else. No way. Are we going to let that happen? I mean, you get it. We stand at a crossroads of freedom. Before us lie 2 paths, one based on the dignity and worth of every individual, and the other on the growing control of the state. One road leads to greater freedom and opportunity for every American. The other road leads to socialism and decline. Well, I know the American people, just as Arizona did in 2016, are going to choose freedom and opportunity when we re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. Joe Biden and the radical Democrats would set America on a path of socialism and decline. Make no mistake about it. President Trump set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity from our very first day in office. It's really amazing when you look at their agenda. In the midst of a global pandemic, Joe Biden would raise taxes by $4 trillion. By contrast, President Donald Trump cut taxes across the board for the American people, and we're going to keep delivering tax relief to working Americans and businesses large and small. Joe Biden would bury the economy under an avalanche of red tape, more regulation, more bureaucracy. As I told you before, this president's actually cut more federal red tape than any president in American history. And we're just getting started. And Joe Biden even has a $2 trillion plan to abolish fossil fuels. He'd rejoin the Paris Climate Accord and implement his own version of the Green New Deal. President Trump has pursued an all-of-the-above energy strategy that's driving an American energy renaissance. He's made our nation nearly energy independent for the first time in 75 years. We're a net exporter of energy to the world. And it's not just a choice at home. It's a contrast of leadership on the world stage. The American people need to remember that Joe Biden was a leading voice of appeasement toward Iran and the Iran nuclear deal. President Donald Trump got us out of the Iran nuclear deal, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. And where 4 previous administrations made promises to the American people about our most cherished ally, it was President Donald Trump who kept his promise when he moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. So this president has stood with our allies and stood up to our enemies. Closer to home, President Donald Trump has stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. You know, Joe Biden actually said that he believes America is, in his words, systemically racist. And that law enforcement has, again, and I quote, an implicit bias against minorities. When Joe Biden was asked whether he would cut funding to law enforcement, he said, yes, absolutely. Well, President Trump and I know what you all know. The men and women who put on the uniform of law enforcement all across this country are the best people in America. As I just told a gathering down in Tucson of Cops for Trump, with this president and this administration, we'll always back the blue. And we're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever. You know, despite what Joe Biden and the radical left think, the American people know law enforcement isn't the problem. Law enforcement is the solution. We don't need to choose between supporting law enforcement and supporting our minority communities. This president has done both every single day, and we will continue to support law enforcement and support our minority communities with liberty and justice for all. And on issues most important to people of faith across this country, issues like life and religious liberty, Joe Biden and the radical left are deeply out of step with the American people. Now, I'm proud to tell you, though, this president has stood for the religious freedom of every American, of every faith, every day of this administration. It's true. As the president said not long ago, we will never stop fighting for the sacred values that bind us together as Americans. He said, we believe in the dignity of work and the sanctity of life. We believe in faith and family, not in government and bureaucracy. And we live by the words of our national motto, in God we trust. Here at this inaugural event for Latter-day Saints for Trump, I want to assure all of you, you have a president, you have a vice president, an entire administration that understand that the greatness of America doesn't come from the corridors of government or even our bustling factories. It comes from the character and faith of the American people. That's why, in one instance after another, from the first day of this administration, we've been defending freedom and defending the values that we all cherish every day. I mean, from the very first days of this administration, President Trump kept his word when he ended the enforcement of the Johnson Amendment and freed up pulpits all across America. The freedom of speech will not end at the front door of your church or synagogue or place of worship ever again. And where Joe Biden has actually promised to reimpose Obamacare mandates on religious institutions, President Trump ended the assault on the Little Sisters of the Poor 2 years ago, and a few days back, the Supreme Court ended it forever by a 7-2 vote. And then there was the Peace Cross in Maryland. It was literally constructed decades ago to honor fallen heroes in World War I. But left-wing radical activists wanted to take it down. And President Trump stepped in. We stood strong. We went to the Supreme Court, and one more 7-2 vote. The Peace Cross is standing today. And believe it or not, under the last administration, Bibles were actually being removed from VA hospital rooms and even displays. I heard about it a few years back. There was a display on what's called a missing man table in the lobby of a VA hospital in New Hampshire. And some liberal group sent a letter and said that you got to take that Army-issued Bible off the table. And President Trump said, the Bible stays. And we issued a new policy, not only allowing the display of Bibles at VA hospitals, we made it sure that Christmas carols and prayers and gatherings can happen in every VA hospital in America. We're going to defend the freedom of religion of all of our veterans of every faith. Standing strong for religious liberty, I'm proud to report to you that this president has already appointed more than 200 conservatives to our federal courts at every level, and I can tell you they are all men and women who will uphold all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, like the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. 200 judges. And none of that would have been possible without the strong, consistent, principled support of Republicans in the United States Senate, and especially Senator Martha McSally. Thank you for supporting conservatives to our courts at every level. We've made so much progress over the last 3.5 years, strengthening the constitutional foundations of our federal courts. But I don't have to tell all of you gathered here that over the last month we've been reminded that we have work to do. Whether it was that 5-4 decision that struck down Louisiana's pro-life law, or whether it was the incomprehensible 5-4 decision that said that the churches could face greater restrictions than casinos, one thing is clear. We need more conservatives on the Supreme Court of the United States. So we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. I mean, that's exactly why this president announced not long ago what he announced 4 years ago. Come September, we're going to release a list of principled conservative nominees that the president will draw any future nominee to the highest court in the land in the second term. He kept his word before, he'll keep his word again. And if the opportunity presents itself in the next 4 years, I promise you, this president will appoint strong, principled, conservative men and women to the Supreme Court of the United States. And beyond all of that, while Joe Biden is advancing a social agenda of the radical left, by contrast, President Donald Trump is the most pro-life president in American history. It's true. It's true. I mean, from the first day of this administration, this president, our administration, have stood without apology for the sanctity of life. He was literally in office less than a week when he reinstituted what's known as the Mexico City policy, which ensures that no taxpayer dollars will ever be spent to provide or promote abortion abroad. And 1 year later, he expanded it. By contrast, Joe Biden and the radical left support abortion on demand. They even support taxpayer funding of abortion. mean, even though throughout his career, Joe Biden supported what is known as the Hyde Amendment, which has historically prevented your taxpayer dollars from being used to fund abortion. With pressure from the radical left, Joe Biden abandoned his historic position. And now he's pledging to use taxpayer dollars to fund abortion at home and abroad, and is calling for historic increases in funding to Planned Parenthood. Joe Biden and the Democratic Party also support late-term abortion. And Democrats in the Senate even blocked a bill that would require medical care for children that survive abortions. By contrast, this president has consistently defended the vulnerable. He's consistently defended the unborn. He's consistently stood for the sanctity of life, and we always will. We will. This president has called on Congress to outlaw late-term abortion once and for all. And I must tell you, it was one of the proudest moments for your vice president. It was the day that I had the privilege of sitting in the chair in the United States Senate and being given the opportunity to cast the tie-breaking vote to allow states across the country to defund Planned Parenthood. And President Donald Trump signed the bill into law. So for all he's done for life and religious liberty, here at this kickoff event of Latter-day Saints for Trump, for all he's done for people of faith, of every faith across America, men and women in Arizona, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. It really is great to be with you today. In fact, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to be with you today, to share this moment and to share this story. You know, and I want to tell you, I appreciate Governor Ducey's kind introduction, but he's known me a little while. He knows my values. He knows the introduction I prefer is a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order, and I am honored to be with you today. And that's why it means so much to me to be vice president, to a president who's been such a steadfast defender of life and family and faith and freedom. And before I leave, let me also just take this opportunity. Let me take this opportunity to just say thank you to all of you. Thank you for your support, for your encouragement. And thank you for giving my little family the opportunity to serve you as Vice President of the United States. It's the greatest honor of my life. It is. All of you gathered here at Latter-day Saints for Trump also know well, the foundation of America is freedom, but the foundation of freedom is faith. As President John Adams, our first vice president, said long ago, and I quote, "Our Constitution was designed only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." As I've traveled across this country over the last 4 years, I'm more convinced than ever in my 61st year of 2 things. that America is a freedom-loving nation, and America is a nation of faith. People across this country know how precious freedom is. I see the passion in this room. I see it everywhere I go, all across the country, on street corners and conversations from sea to shining sea. I mean, I know we've got a tough fight ahead of us, but it only means the prize is going to be more glorious. And I hope you all see yourselves as a part of the great American story. The story we're writing today is a story of promises made and promises kept. It's a story of renewing American strength. It's a story of creating jobs, renewing the American dream, and opportunity for every American. And in these challenging times, it's a story of American character and resilience and faith. Law and order, protecting all that's made this country strong and prosperous and good. But like any unfinished story, the rest is up to us. From this day forward, every day that remains between now and Election Day, we've all got to do our part. We've got to go tell the story and lay a foundation to write the next chapter. We've got to tell all the wonderful families across this state and in this community about all the progress that we've made. I mean, tell them what we've done for life and liberty. Tell them what they're not hearing on most of their major cable television networks. And tell them it's time. It's time to write the next chapter of American greatness. It's time to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years. So go tell them. And this, I know you will do, because the American people have never stopped. From those days when I was first added to this ticket, the summer of 2016, and every day since, I've seen the way the American people reached out and took hold of their future. You knew we could be strong again. You knew we could be prosperous again. You talked to your neighbors and your friends at work and at worship. And we made history in 2016. And we're going to make history again in 2020. I know this because I have faith. I have faith that this is a freedom-loving nation. Freedom beats in the heart of every American. And I know the American people are going to choose freedom again and reject the radical left and Joe Biden and the pathway to socialism and decline. I know we'll rise to the occasion. We'll not only re-elect this president, but we'll elect and re-elect principled conservatives at every level. And I know you're going to step forward and do your part. And I want to thank you in advance for all that you're going to do in these 83 days. And if you're of a mind, I'd ask you to do one more thing in every day that follows between now and when the polls close here in Arizona. As you're inclined to bow the head and bend the knee, I'd encourage you to do that too. We will. You know, the sweetest words that we ever hear as we travel around this country when people say, "I'm praying for you." I've heard it today here in Arizona, and I hear it everywhere I go. So does the president. And I want to tell you, we feel those prayers. Keep it up. It matters. But on this one, I'm not so much asking you to pray for a candidacy or pray for a cause. I just encourage you to pray for America. Pray for all of the American people. The good book tells us that if his people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray He'll do like he's always done in much more challenging times than we could possibly imagine. He'll hear from heaven, and he'll heal this land, this one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So pray for America. It'll make a difference for our nation and our future. And as you pray, pray with confidence. We're also told that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. And that means when we make freedom our cause, when we stand for freedom, when we defend freedom, when we live out freedom every day, we make His work on this earth our own. And that means freedom always wins. So thank you for coming out to this extraordinary day. And to all the Latter-day Saints for Trump, I say thank you for your support. And I leave here today with confidence that with your continued support and prayers, with these great conservatives reelected to the House and Senate, and with 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House, we're going to make America more prosperous than ever before. We're going to make America safer than ever before. We're going to heal our land. And we're going to make America great again. Again. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless Arizona, and God bless America.